hymn number 379, Take My Life. Whoops, we're going to have the ministry board doing that again. You know, I struggle with this text all week long, and maybe I am subconsciously trying to move along. Yet I do love the book of Luke. The reading this morning is taken from the book of Luke, the 10th chapter, beginning at the 38th verse. Now, I want to remember that Jesus had set his face on Jerusalem, and his fate would be met at that point, because that's where he's going to be crucified. That's where he's going to die. So this journey is a continuum of that fact that Jesus had set his face on Jerusalem. Now, as they went on their way, he entered a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to what he was saying. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks, so she came to him and asked, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all of the work by myself? Tell her then to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is a need for only one thing, and Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken from her." This is the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. It's an amazing thing when we think of the culture of the Mediterranean era, of the Greek culture, and what hospitality had meant in those times and places. It's different today. I mean, most of us don't leave our doors unlocked. Most of us are weary of strangers and worried about what that could bring to us. So this is a culture that was totally different. In this culture, the Mediterranean and Greek culture, what you were to do was you were to receive strangers. You opened your home to strangers and you invited them in. You gave them a place to rest, you washed their feet, you even gave them gifts for arriving at your house. Who knows what time, who knows how late it was, who knows what else you had going on in your house. But if they arrived, you were to treat them with dignity and respect, and you didn't have to know who they were. That was the culture of that time. So we already heard last week about the Good Samaritan and the Samaritan who did good. Today we hear about Martha. And what Martha's doing is not bad stuff. Trust me, it's not bad stuff. And trust me, it has to be done. So I go into the text and I'm looking at the text, and the first thing that comes to my mind is that the word was actually in several different versions of the Bible would be either a better or best. How many remember Sears? Wow, it's almost just a memory now, isn't it? I mean, Sears has really diminished in size. I remember when they were downtown Muskegon, and they were on both sides of the alley. The lawn stuff was on the north side, on the other side of the alley, and all the clothing and jewelry and all the good stuff was on the Western Avenue side. Yes, that dates me a long way back, because there's a lot of changes then. But one of the things that you would find at Sears was if you went in, you could buy a lawnmower. You could buy a good lawnmower. In my early years, though that was the level I went to, you could buy a better lawnmower, or you could buy the best. Now, you just kind of looked at the best, but you couldn't afford the best. But there were three categories in there. And whenever I think of Sears, I also think of Janis Joplin. Who knows who Janis Joplin is? Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? My friends all have Porsches. I must make amends. And she asked for a TV. She didn't want just a TV. She wanted a color TV. And she goes through this whole list of things that she would like to have. And the reason she wanted to have them is because, obviously, she didn't have them. She didn't have a Porsche. She didn't have a Mercedes-Benz. And so that's what she wanted. We often treat God like a Sears catalog. We often treat God like He is this request receiver. Lord, buy me a Mercedes-Benz. Lord, let me win the lottery. Lord, all of the good things I'll do once I win that lottery. Don't we do that? I mean, we go to God for all of those kinds of things. And God answers prayer. But I discovered in my years that sometimes the answer is, no, I have something better for you. I wanted to be forever with this girl named Marcia Erickson when I was in high school. You know, forever. And while I didn't specifically pray, I knew that God was working in my behalf. And eventually, 27 years ago, actually more than that, but 27 years is my life, I found out what was better for me. There is good, there is better, and there is best. But what is really strange for me about this text is that Martha goes out into the street, confronts Jesus directly, which was totally against the culture of that time, and says, hey, Jesus, come on over. Come to my house. Rest on your journey. That just was not done. I'm sorry, folks, it was not done. Women were not allowed to talk to men. Couldn't do that. Couldn't do that. And yet we find Jesus receiving women all the time. I was president and CEO of 3 corporations over the years, 36 years. One of the things that I found is that every time I promoted a woman in the position, people got uncomfortable. I remember an argument with my partner. So we were going to hire this person. And I said, what does the job pay? What do we have on our standards of operation? And he said, well, she's married. She doesn't need that kind of a salary. Hello? Hello? What does the job pay? That's the question. We pay for the job that the person can do. And when that person raises the bar on that job, we give them incremental raises for the work that they do. Nowhere in there did it say that it had to be a man, or a woman, or this age, or that age, or even have the education. Now, if there were 3 people that had identical capability, you would reward those that took the time and energy and expense to go to increase their education because you knew that they were committed. So you would probably choose that person. But not because they were male, not because they were female, not because they were tall, not because they were short, young, or good looking. In fact, laws today prevent that from happening. So being able to reach out to a woman in that culture also was very, very difficult. And yet, who did it? Jesus did it. And as I'm sitting there saying it, and I start reading it, and I look and I say, wait a minute, it doesn't say the best part. You would think that Jesus is the best part, right? Jesus is the best part. And I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that. But what Jesus is saying is that A, Mary mattered. Mary chose me over all of the fussiness in life that has to go on. Mary chose the better part. So if we know that Mary chose the better part, is Jesus denying what Martha was doing? I mean, we have many church groups called Martha groups that do wonderful, wonderful work in our church in the name of Christ. Their presence is healing. So Jesus isn't saying that that Martha is doing doesn't matter. He's not saying that at all. In fact, he didn't say that. He said that Mary chose the better part. And I'm not going to take that away from her. I'm sure that if we had more pages, it would say, and thank you for all the work that you've done, Martha, and it matters, and you made me feel very, very welcome, and I feel very, very comfortable, and my feet feel a lot better washed and dry. If Mary's is the better part, then Martha's is a good part. What is the best part? What is the best part? I've been around the church for a long, long, long time, folks. I was baptized in one. Yeah. We had electricity and everything. Yeah. Been around it a long, long time. And a lot of good things have happened in that church. In all of those churches. And people were at the center of doing those things. But in every one of those churches, I have noticed that there were people who were always there for cleanup, the yard work, for all of the kinds of things that have to happen. But they weren't there on Sunday. Why would they do that and not do that? Did they know everything that Jesus was going to say? Did they know everything that was in the wisdom and understanding of Jesus? Did they know everything about their faith? I don't know. I don't know. But maybe thinking that work and doing things was the better part rather than being. I told you I love the blue creatures, the avatars. Avatar means a divine creature that comes to earth and takes the place. And of course, he went to the culture where they had the avatars. I loved this one verse. I've never forgotten the verse, just the name, Avatar. She looks at him, and what does she say? I see you. You have a being. You are a human being, not a human doing. God created you with a presence. God created you with a soul. God created you with an experience to share with all people. You. All of you. To say that one person was more deserving to be sitting at the feet of Jesus than the other would be denying the creation of God who created all things, what? Good. Good. Whenever we reject somebody, we reject God's creation. Whenever we think that a male should have the job instead of a female, or that Mary should be out in the kitchen working, we deny what God has called us to do. We are human beings. Human beings. God being head over heels in love with what He created. You and everyone else. The hardest part when we see the violence on TV and we see all the things that are happening in the world and we see people with locked doors or walking around the Samaritan, we make a decision. We make a decision. And that decision is not for me. Ooh, I can't handle it. Oops. I don't like country music. whatever it is, we are making choices. But the reality of it is that God created Mary and Martha and you to be beings, full beings. I'm thinking the other day I mentioned to you about the drag crane and how fast everything is growing in technology. And we only use 15% of our brains. Where is this world going to be in 10 years from now? Wow. Wow. I remember being excited about the Pac-Man. Huh? Boing, boing. And then Pong. Boing, boing. The only difference with Pac-Man went like this. We have a gift to give, or God would not have created us. Is the person a deaf mute? Yes. Do they have gifts? Yes. Are they special? God created them. A person who has palsy or whatever the disease is, they are still special in the eyes of God. There were cultures of that time that also thought that women only had the place of cleaning and prepping and taking care of the head of the household, who just happened to be male. But that's not what God says. God said that we are created equal. And in the eyes of God, it says that there is neither male nor female, nor bond nor free man, nor old or young, nor tall or short. And yet we make those judgments. The call for us this week is that whenever we look at somebody, and everybody that we look at, their actions or their presence might not be pleasing. But what God is saying is, wait, I need you to know that creature, that creation, that person is mine. And I love him dearly. Love him. Love him. If we are supposed to love our enemies and do good to them, people, what are we supposed to do for those around us? Huh? What are we supposed to do? I need you to think about that this week, because the God that loves you is head over heels in love with you, and me, and all of you. Let your heart be filled with compassion and love this week, and lean not to your own understanding, but the knowledge that God loves them. And if it's good enough for God, good enough for me. May I hear an amen?
Amen.